Lesson 23, we go to the beginning of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 1. Sutra 1. I salute the primeval Lord Shiva, who taught Parvati the Hatha Yoga Vidya, which is as a stairway for those who wish to attain the lofty Raja Yoga. Every holy book starts with an invocation. It's very interesting that in ancient times, when a book was written, it was not written for commercial purpose. The author with the invocation doesn't say, hey, here I am, this is my name, and this is my book, and you have to pay me. They say, this book was written in the name of a higher goal. And we talked a little bit about that thing, calling things holy or evil in the name of religion, and the practical purpose of that. It means that there is something important coming. It means that there is something that is of great value. Because it's not from me, Svatmarama, this is from higher sources. It's from higher powers. I'm only a vessel, I'm only conveying this to you. This sutra contains some very interesting aspects. First, that divine source. Why do we call a book that we think is important for the whole of mankind? Why do we call it divine? Why do we claim that it's from divine source? It is actually the writer who wrote it. He just doesn't claim ownership. He does that for a reason. Because if Svatmarama would sit there saying, hey, I wrote a book and everybody should read it, people would just laugh at him. Who are you? You have to look at this based on another historical event. When Moses led his people from Egypt through the desert. Moses was the leader of thousands of people that were homeless. And at some point, people were divided. They started fighting with each other. They started even killing each other. And Moses sat there with his hands in his hair and he thought, oh my God, this is going really the wrong way. What can I do? And in his wisdom, he didn't, or maybe he tried already and it didn't work. He didn't issue orders for people to behave, because apparently that didn't work, because who are you? He decided to go up the mountain and do a fast for 40 days. That is how the story goes. So he spent 40 days up the mountain, I think meditating, but whatever he did there, he came back down the mountain and he said, I connected with God. And God gave me 10 commandments. We from now on have to live following these 10 commandments. He didn't say, I order you to live in accordance with those commandments, because people wouldn't take him seriously. He said, this is from divine source. This comes from God. And in their simplicity, people would not dare to break the rules that God had passed down to them through Moses. So that is why we talk about holy sites, holy elements, holy books, anything that is holy. Remember the holy cow in India, or the evil wolf in Europe, or the impure pig in the Middle East. These are all, it has nothing to do with God, really. It has a very practical reason. But people would not stick to it if you don't give it some divine background. So anytime from now on, every time when you come across something that is holy, declared holy, sacred, try to find the practical reason behind it. You will be surprised. Yes?
I mean, there are many people who would disagree with you, you know that, right? Like, I mean, that's the Jewish, every Jew would disagree with what you just said.
That's fine. My words are not law. I'm Jewish too, by the way.
Well, I'm half. And so that's what I'm saying. I mean, Moses' story doesn't start with him going to the desert. It was actually taking them out of Egypt and doing all of that. So
I know.
God was already, before he walked with the people who weren't homeless but slaves. So to say that this is just him not taking ownership about
listen, let's not make it too complicated. I'm trying to give you a practical reason for calling things holy. It's not about the correctness or incorrectness of the entire story of what Moses and his people did in those many decades that they wandered through the desert. It is this little thing of him going up the mountain and coming back with 10 laws that God had given him. They were not given to him by God. He came up with those rules in the hope that it would help organizing his people that were killing each other, hoping that there would be more order among his people so that they could survive. It's just to give you an idea of how books were written in the past. The author, like Moses, didn't say, these are my laws and you have to live in accordance with them. Svatmarama doesn't say, this is my book and it is very powerful if you follow this, because nobody would simply believe it. If you say that it comes from a divine source, people are more inclined to pay attention to it. Yeah. Very interesting aspect also, which you do not find in the sutra, but that is according to Indian tradition, and Ajita described a little bit in the handout, is the anecdote behind how yoga came into being. And tradition has it that Lord Shiva, the god, was teaching his wife Parvati yoga on a beach in a location that is modern-day Sri Lanka. A fish accidentally overheard those teachings and became empowered through what he picked up from what he overheard. Matsya, the name of the fish, became king of the underwater world, but he is also representative of the first human being. And that's a very interesting aspect, but because that shows that ancient people, without all the technological benefits that we have, had a clear idea that life originated in the sea. And this is personified in the fish Matsya, who evolved as a result of yoga and became the first human being. Also interesting is that this book was written for those to use it as a stairway for those who wish to attain the lofty Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is not a practice, it is a condition where the crown chakra is functioning. If you follow the steps presented in this book correctly, it leads to a reversal of energy descending and contracting towards the bottom, rising up, fueling the crown chakra. Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga go with each other. They do not stand alone. One leads to the other. There are Raja Yoga books. Raja Yoga books generally do not contain exercises, but they contain a lot of philosophy, a lot of insight in how we subconsciously function and how we can gain insight resulting in control over this subconscious functioning. Remember that the whole idea of yoga is to end the suffering that mankind is subjected to. Because we function mainly subconsciously, mankind is suffering because we have no control over our instincts, our urges and our tendencies because we're not even aware of them. Sutra 2. Svatmarama Yogin, having saluted his Lord and Guru, teaches the Hatha Vidya solely for the attainment of Raja Yoga, solely for the attainment of the functioning, the civilization of humankind basically, civilizing humankind through activating the wonderful characteristics of the crown chakra, opening the heart, wisdom, insight, intuition, etc. 3. Sutra 3. To those who wander in the darkness of conflicting doctrines, being ignorant of Raja Yoga, the most compassionate Svatmarama Yogin offers the light of Hatha Vidya. Who is wandering in the darkness of conflicting doctrines? We all are. We all are wandering in the darkness of conflicting doctrines. Also in yoga, there is so much ignorance. There is so much misunderstanding, so much mystery and dogma surrounding yoga. So Svatmarama keeps telling us that the whole purpose of yoga, Hatha Yoga, is Raja Yoga is the opening up of the crown chakra. It is to elevate people from darkness to light. Darkness is the condition of ignorance. Light is the condition in which you possess wisdom, insight, intuition. Sutra 4. Machendra, Goraksha, and others knew well the Hatha Vidya. The yogins Svatmarama learned it by their favor. Machendra, that is the fish who became the first human being and the first yogi. So what Svatmarama is doing here is establishing a lineage. Svatmarama, the author of this book, is part of the lineage that started all the way back with the first human being, with the first yogi. And he continues with that in the next Sutra 5 to 9. Shiva, which is the god, Machendra, who learned it from them, practicing yoga on the beach. So Shiva, Machendra, Shabara, Ananda Bhairava, Kaurangi, Meena, Goraksha, Virupaksha, Bilashaya, Mantana, Bhairava, Siddhi, Buddha, Kantadi, Korantaka, Surananda, Siddhapada, Karpati, Kaneri, Pujapada, Nityanata, Niranjana, Kapaling, Bindunata, Kakakandishvara, Alama, Prabhudeva, Kodakolin, Tintini, Banukin, Naradeva, Kanda, Kapalika, and many other great Siddhas have conquered time by the power of Hatha Yoga. They move about the universe. This is where the mystery and the dogma starts. Conquering time. How do you conquer time? Every generation is a product of their own time. And the way that we function, the way that we think, the way that we see the world around us is unique to that particular time frame in which you were born and grown up. So you're not moving through time. You're a product of your time, and you stay a product of your time until you liberate yourself. Yoga is the path towards liberation. Now, what does that mean that you're moving through time? That is that you develop the ability to look out of the box. Which box? The box of the conditioning the conditioning caused by the time frame in which you were born and raised. So you will still be a product of that particular time frame. I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s mainly. But you have the ability to think and look out of the box. And that allows you to understand all the generations, allows you to see where they are coming from. And it allows you to help you to understand younger generations. Because one of the things that we see in all societies is, of course, the conflict between younger and older generations. Because they fail to understand where they're coming from. And it goes, of course, both ways. And if you look at social media conversations, so many people, they just keep saying, in the past, everything was better. And when I was a child, older people that do not live anymore, they also said everything is better. And the people that are now older, they will also say everything when I was young was better. And the people that are young now, 30 years from now, they will say everything was better. So those people are like frogs in a well. They are very limited in their vision, their perception. Yoga, with the fueling of the crown chakra, the awakening of the crown chakra, allows you to look beyond that. That is what moving through time means. And they are moving about the universe. This is about the people, the saints, the yogis, the siddhas, who have reached enlightenment, who have reached the highest level of development through yoga. That is why they're in this lineage. Moving about the universe are those souls that do not reincarnate anymore. They have reached the end of the line of all those lives that we have to suffer through before we reach that final stage where we have no karma anymore and we do not have to reincarnate anymore. Those souls are up there, and it is where we get our inspiration from. Us ignorant people here down on earth, we are suffering because we are disconnected. So we are on our own and we have to reinvent the wheel time and time again. The wheel that has been invented throughout time, throughout history. But when you become contemplative, when you become sensitive, you have moments in which you have epiphanies, in which you have amazing insights. Those insights come in silence. It is in this silence that you connect with the vibrations that are up there, the spirits that are up there. And they are there all the time. They have been there all the time. And it is so sad that so many people are just not capable of connecting with that huge source of information, experience, insight, and just keep suffering through, according to Buddhism, 1,000,000 lives. But it is in your meditations and your meditative condition, which will expand more and more if you continue practicing yoga. You will meditate just while you're washing the dishes, while you're driving, while you are walking in the street. You become more and more contemplative. Not just in your meditation. Your meditation is just a tool with which you develop a new condition, and that condition is contemplative, your contemplative powers. And you will have more and more of those insights coming to you effortlessly. It is especially in those moments that you are calm and quiet, that they just come very naturally to you. Whatever it is that has been playing in your mind, the moment that you are quiet, the information comes to you. And in the beginning it's very impressive. Every time you have a new insight spontaneously coming to you, you're in awe of the miracle that is happening, but it will become a natural occurrence and it's not even surprising you anymore. Sutra 10, and the last one for this session. The Hatha Yoga is a sheltering monastery for those scorched by all three types of pain. To those engaged in the practice of every kind of yoga, Hatha Yoga is like the tortoise that supports the world. This connects with the idea in Buddhism that yoga is a valley of tears. Hatha Yoga is a sheltering monastery for those scorched by all types of pain. Now, pain in yoga or philosophy is not exactly what we think of as pain. Because the pain that we understand, that is gross pain. When you bump your head into the doorpost, or when you burn yourself or cut yourself while cooking, or pain when you have a conflict with a loved one. But pain, I mentioned this before when we talked about another subject. Pain also exists in many very, very subtle forms. And we do not recognize those forms as pain. And we think this is all part of life. We just have to live with those disturbances and discomforts and suffering. To understand that a little bit better, look at the process of disease. Disease always ends in death. But before it ends in death, there are often years of signals. And it starts with very, very subtle signals. Just a very slight sense of discomfort somewhere in your body. And because we do not recognize it, we just go on living as we live. And the body then says, hey, you're not taking care of me. Here it is going to get worse. And when it gets to the point that you cannot ignore it anymore because it becomes too uncomfortable, you go to the doctor. The doctor gives you a pill. but doesn't tell you that there is a reason why you are experiencing this. There is something in your life you need to correct or do differently, and so you take the pill, it takes away the symptoms, but not the cause, and so eventually, sooner or later, it will come back again. So, you know, especially men very often ignore pain and discomforts. If only they go to the doctor a little bit earlier, they can... my father, for example, had a terrible cough for years, and he just kept joking about it, and then he died from lung cancer, of course. Because when he went to the doctor, finally, after years of ignoring the symptoms, it was too late. So, if you feel some discomfort, if you feel some pain, just pay attention. Try to deduct where it is coming from, what is causing it. And you don't need to go to a doctor. If you can, yoga practitioners often become kind of a natural doctor themselves. And when you go to the hospital, when you visit the doctor, doctors don't like us. Because we have our own opinion, thinking what is wrong with us. And doctors don't like us to say, hey doctor, I think that there is this and that wrong with me. They want to be in charge. They want to tell you what is wrong with you. You become kind of a self-medicating. To some point you can deal with any kind of issues that you encounter by making corrections.
I cannot agree on everything that you are saying, sorry.
Yeah, because you recognize it.
No, because I don't know if you are coming from a background where you hadn't had proper medical attention, maybe. But I cannot speak either by all the physicians around the world, because I'm not them. And I cannot judge them either.
Yeah.
But I can speak by myself and by other persons. And I can speak by people who does research on trying to find answers, because technology is helping us as well to understand other things that in the past, as you had told us, when books like this were written, all of those things were not available, and they are based on other things, experiences and whatsoever, common knowledge, I don't know. But I definitely cannot agree with you on saying that all doctors are not liking patients, or not giving answers, or just giving pills to treat illnesses. Neither that all the illnesses take you to death. I do agree on what you are saying, that we need to pay attention to what our body says.
Yeah.
I think we need to catch, all of us, very soon, any signal of pain or discomfort and seek for attention, or seek for an answer.
Yeah.
On that I agree, but in the other part, I definitely cannot agree 100%. Sorry.
You don't have to. What I'm teaching here is my insights. You develop your own insights, and they can diverge from mine. No problem. There's no argument with that. There's no conflict.
That doctors try to be like in charge. So I could only invite you as well, drive in front of us as a sort of guide to navigate through all of this. And that's great. But that takes a responsibility with you. And some of us might be even older. All of us have different experiences. Some of us might be mothers. Some of them no. But we are somehow relying on you and seeking for some information.
Yeah.
So as well, that gives you a responsibility of being mindful of what you are saying, and always invite people to have a judgment and not only follow what you are saying. That especially for the young generations. I think they should be always open to hear you, but not always like follow. You know? Because experience can be different for each of us.
Yeah, and of course we're only human, so we nobody's perfect. But about pain, it's not limited to disease. It's just a very small part of it. We experience pain when things go wrong in our lives. Most people are in pain. Everybody is in pain because they have a job that they don't like. They are associating with people that they don't really like, but the motivation is not pure. Or relationships, situations that we find ourselves in. And those are all, in yoga, are also considered pain. And the purpose of pain is to become aware of the situation, and then, based on that insight, trying to change that over time, gradually. So when you have a job that you don't like, you go to work every morning feeling grumpy. You hate to do it, but you do it because it pays the bills. It's what you were taught to do, what you were trained to do. It's normal that we do that, but we ignore the resistance that we feel. Many people kind of compensate for the unhappiness that they feel because they do something that they don't like, but they don't think that there is another way or a way out. They compensate by drinking alcohol, smoking, eating lots of sugar or fatty things, or we kind of compensate our discomfort and just continue living in that situation in that way. Yoga says, of course, you're only human, you have your weaknesses, but listen, if there is any form of resistance or discomfort, whether it's related to people that you are surrounded with or related to situations that you find yourself in, pay attention and ask yourself, why do I feel this disruption, this disturbance? And based on that, you can then start planning for changing that situation, if it is possible. Sometimes we have to endure, and that is a test of our character in that case. Or when it comes to a job, for example, you cannot just change that. You probably have to re-educate yourself, or maybe you can find another workplace where you feel better. If that is the case, then of course you can go plan for that. But you cannot just say, oh, today I feel discomfort, so I'm going to quit my job, because then the internet will be disconnected, the phone will be disconnected, gas and electricity when you don't pay the bills, and eventually you will be evicted from your house because you can't pay the rent anymore. And in case of foreigners in Korea, if you're here on a work visa, you quit your job because you hate it, 2 weeks later you will be deported from the country because the immigration office doesn't allow you to stay here if you don't continue to work there. It does mean that if you take your time to plan for change, you can be in charge of that. And then your suffering also has a meaning. Before I came to Korea, it took me 9 years of planning and preparing. But I was always in high spirits because I knew what I was doing it for. And that is what I mean by your suffering having a meaning. Because suffering, if you just go through the suffering without doing anything about it, without taking action or drawing conclusions, it's meaningless. And you're just suffering for the suffering, and the suffering won't stop. So the moment that you start dealing with it in a conscious way, in a constructive way, the suffering is not negative anymore. It has the purpose to make you aware of something, and based on that awareness, you then need to take actions. You need to take steps to improve. That is, when you see this, you realize that this is basically what life is about. So pay attention to the slightest disruptions, disturbances, irritations, small irritations, big irritations. telling you something. It's telling you something about yourself and the situation that you are in. Questions? Okay, let's have a short break.